The defense of the motherland is going through its most difficult moment. The Soviet soldier had to adapt to survive. Everything became simpler, tougher, and ready for total war. The year of 1942 shall be the end of the beginning. By late 1941, the Soviet Union was barely standing. The German attack was a disaster for the Red Army, but they didn't break. Even after losing millions of men, they were still in the fight, and the situation was about to change. The year now is all about survival, and to equip millions of new soldiers, everything must be simpler and faster to make. Today, I'll show you exactly what a Soviet soldier will carry in 1942. Let's start with the uniform. This is the classic M35 Gimnastiorka, but it looks different from the pre-war version. The one on the left is the pre-war model that used bright raspberry colored collar tabs. Starting in August 1941, by 1942 these were replaced by low visibility versions. As you can see here, the bright colors are gone, replaced by olive drab. The insignia are also different, changing from red to green, and the infantry insignia disappears in most cases. In fact, there is no evidence that the infantry insignia were painted green. They simply disappear or remain unpainted. The same thing happened with the insignia on coats and other clothing items. The colorful tabs were removed and simple, subdued insignia became the standard for every soldier on the front line. And of course, it's not unusual to continue seeing a mix of insignia during the war. Even the brass buttons were often painted over or replaced with duller materials to avoid reflections. As you can see, the famous Soviet stars also underwent this change and turned green. Although it's true that many soldiers prefer to keep the original red color as a symbol of the Soviet homeland and resistance. It's a small change, but it shows how the Red Army was adapting. They were moving away from peacetime traditions and focusing purely on combat reality. Another important piece of Soviet gear was the Sidor or Meshok. It's essentially a simple canvas rucksack, but in 1942 carried all the soldiers' stuff. If we make a comparison like in the previous section, we can see that the backpack is much simpler than the M39 model. These ones were quickly replaced by the much easier to produce Meshok. Maybe not as comfortable as the M39, but it's very strong and much more effective for a mass army of millions. Look at the difference. This is the earlier M39 rucksack I showed you in my previous video. It was complex, with leather straps and a rigid frame. But by 1942, the Red Army replaced it with this simple sack design. And now you can notice how I'm carrying the greatcoat or chenille. In my previous video, I showed you where the coat was strapped around the M39 backpack. But now, the standard way to carry it was rolled and tied across the chest in a horseshoe shape, using a simple canvas strap. But this is for my Russian friends. How shall we call it? Meshok, Besmeshok, Sidor? Let's discuss this in the comments. The back uses its own strap to close and can be fastened at chest height for a more stable fit. For now, let's see what's inside. Here we have the M1936 mess kit for cooking and eating. Starting in 1936, the Soviet Union produced a new U-type aluminum mess kit in Leningrad. Its design was based on German and older Russian models, and it holds about 2.2 liters. The next one is the Plush Palatka, the multi-purpose rain cape with a rope to set up a tent or use it as a raincoat to protect yourself from the elements. And of course, some spare set of clothes. It's basic, but it's everything a soldier needed to survive in the field. In this bag, they could carry everything needed for a campaign. As we can see, it's no longer a complex backpack, but rather a way to equip soldiers on a large scale. If you want to see how the Meshok closes, you can watch the dedicated short I made on my channel. But you've probably realized that it's not too difficult. As we can see the dynamics on 1942, these are the most essential elements in their most simplified form. In 1942, the gas mask bags were still common across the front lines, and the most typical version was this one, the model 1940. As you can see, compared to the previous model, the M36, it lacks side pockets and is slightly smaller, in line with the overall trend towards simplification. Now, what is soldiers really carrying here? Instead of the gas mask, many men use this bag as extra storage. Inside mine, I have a spoon, an aluminum cup, some food, and basic hygiene items. Things you really need every single day on the front. It was a very easy and convenient way to carry smaller items and keep them close at hand. So on paper, this is a gas mask bag, but for many Soviet soldiers in 1942, it was a very useful personal bag. But if there is one thing that defines the success of an army, that's the boots. In 1942, the Soviet industry was struggling to keep up with the demand of leather. And that's when we see a true revolution in footwear. That's Kirza. It's not real leather, but an artificial substitute made from treated canvas. Close to the original, but much faster and cheaper to produce in the middle of a war. There was also a change in the soles. This year, we see the debut of the rubber dot pattern. In this photo, you can see both patterns being used. This combination will become common and continue throughout the rest of the war. If we compare them to these older all-leather boots with traditional leather soles, you can see the transition from peacetime quality to wartime necessity. Here you can clearly see the difference between real leather and wartime synthetic leather. This same rubber dot sole also appeared on low boots worn with puttees. We'll see them on a dedicated video. The Kirza design was so successful and so practical that carried the Red Army from Moscow to Berlin, and it remained in the Soviet military until the late 1970s. Now, let's talk about the combat equipment. This is what the soldier wore every day in the field. I'm using a leather belt, but webbing belts with leather reinforcements were also used by 1942. As you can see, it's composed by a canvas ammo pouch for Mosin clips, 2 F1 grenades, a canteen, and an entrenching tool. But to understand what changed in 1942, we need to compare it with the 1941 setup. Here's the difference. In 1941, the ammo pouches were made of leather. By 1942, they were replaced with canvas versions like this. Leather was more expensive and slower to produce, but they were simultaneously used until the end of the war. The leather pouch could hold 6 clips of 5 rounds each. The canvas one varied in size, though the rounds weren't kept as well organized. The grenades also changed. Before, soldiers used dedicated grenade pouches, but by 1942, grenades were often just carried loose in bags or tucked directly into the belt. Here we can see various examples of RGD-33, F1 and RG-42 grenades. The canteen, the model 1932, is now covered by the model 1941 carrier. Earlier models had different designs and covers, but at this stage production was standardized. And finally, the shovel carrier. Before 1941, it was often leather. Now it's canvas again. In my case, for pre-war, early war impressions, I used this World War I era holster. But, as I said, from 1942 onwards, canvas should be your choice. This set might look basic, but remember that it was made for millions and to survive the hardest conditions. So let's talk about helmets. For 1942 impression, this is my first choice, the SSH-40. By mid-1942, this helmet was becoming the standard issue for the Red Army. This helmet was an improved version of the SSH-39. It has a new 3-pad liner, which makes it much easier to wear winter headwear underneath, like balaclavas or ushankas. Production started before the German invasion, but it's really in 1942 that these helmets begin to reach the front line in large numbers. They were made in 3 sizes, with size 1 being 45-47 heads, size 2 for 48-60 heads, and size 3 for 61. But if you want the most accurate impression, the SSH-40 is the helmet you should go for. Finally, we have the king of the Soviet infantry, the Mosin-Nagant. Even if you are thinking about the iconic PPSH-41, in mid-1942 the bolt-action rifle was still the king of the battlefield. Some machine guns were starting to appear, but they wouldn't be distributed in massive numbers until the second third of the year. If we look closely at the rifle for a 1942 impression, the biggest change is the sling. Before the war, these were made of high quality leather, like this one, but by this year, just like the ammo pouches and the belts, leather was replaced by canvas. As for the bayonet, the standard way to carry it is attached to the rifle itself like this. There used to be holsters for carrying it, but they are rarely seen these days, so don't use it. The Mosin could be an old design, but it was the backbone of the Red Army and the tool that started to turn the tide of the war. If this helped you learn something about the Red Army, you know the drill. Give it a like and subscribe for more content. The Commissar is watching you.